This is great. Welcome to the Poetry Flash reading series. And as Harold said, I'm Joyce Jenkins, editor and director of Poetry Flash. We are really pleased to present two of Northern California's best. Julia B. Levine, reading from her new award-winning collection, Lullaby for the Sixth Extinction, and Joseph Millar, author of Shine and other books. It's a great pleasure to have them here today. And we, as you can see, have their books here for your perusal after the reading. And copies are also available online at bookshop.org/shop/poetryflash in case you go home and say, wait a minute, why didn't I get a book? Video of this event and all of our readings are posted on our Poetry Flash YouTube channel. It's very easy to find on YouTube. Just put in Poetry Flash in search. See, if you want to get on our mailing list, just go to poetryflash.org, go to mailing list up in the right-hand top corner menu, or sign up here on our analog clipboard. Very easy. Check out poetryflash.org for reviews and future events. New content will appear this week. Got a little bit slowed down this past few weeks because of a technical glitch, but and a few other things. Wild times these are, but we have lots to go up on the site this week. I just want to say that we are deeply grateful for your support. We truly appreciate your help in any way to keep our community together at these events online. And that seems even more important now than it has in the past. So thank you. To visit our donation page, go to poetryflash.org/give. And thanks to Art House Gallery and impresario Harold Adler. Support Art House and their generosity to poetry and to Poetry Flash. And thanks to Stephen Banza and Rosalinda Monroy for their help today. Now, our first reader is going to be Julia B. Levine, and her brand new astounding book is Lullaby for the Sixth Extinction, winner of the Wolfson Press Poetry Chapbook Prize. Traci Brimhall says, Lullaby for the Sixth Extinction is an album of moments, a testament to a family's love in the face of pediatric oncology. These poems distill so many days and memories down to their most particular, bright and painful details. The lavender fields, the hallways full of ghosts and origami cranes, the family huddled around a crib as if warming their hands by a fire. Every line woke up a new corner of my heart. Her previous books include Small Disasters Seen in Sunlight, winner of the Northern California Book Award in Poetry, and Ordinary Psalms, winner of the Nautilus Silver Award. Her honors include a Pushcart Prize, Terrain Poetry Prize, the Southern Reviews Award, and the Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellowship for her work building climate change resiliency in teenagers. I hope that's right.
Yes.
And I want to talk to you about that later.
Okay.
That sounds fantastic. And she would like you to know, and she'll probably also tell you herself, that all of the proceeds from the book sales today, every penny, will go to the UCSF Pediatric Oncology and Bone Marrow Transplant Unit. Please welcome Julia B.
Oh, I'm so happy to see all of you here. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Joe, for agreeing to read with me. I know you've had to lower your standards a little. And, and to Joyce, who does so much for the poetry community. It's just astounding. So it's true. This book, you're going to think, God, can this get any more depressing on such a beautiful spring day? But I promise you, as depressing and horrifying and terrible as the experience was, I have pictures up here to show you that this little guy is thriving. And so it's an extremely happy story. Yeah. Okay. I don't see very well, so I'm not going to read from the book. I'm just going to read from my notes. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the way I thought about this book. It is, of course, on the surface, the story of a can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. On the surface, it's the story of a 5-month-old baby and his parents going through 2 years of a very brutal treatment for infant leukemia. But there are several poems throughout this book that deal with our very serious climate crisis. So what the heck was I thinking? Why these two different kinds of poems? Since there's so many poets and writers in this room, this word liminal will be no surprise to you. It's the framework I used for this book. It's this threshold between existence and whatever surrounds it, whether it's nothingness or eternity or black matter, or I don't know, I don't believe in it, but maybe heaven and hell. But it's hard to stay on that threshold where the experience of the immediate world bumps up against the notion that there is a before and a nevermore. And that has always been the subject of poetry, but sometimes there are circumstances that create a crisis, and my grandson's illness was one of them and forced me to live there for 2 years. It was very painful, but it was not just terror, it was not just horror. It was also the beauty of this world that has its own illness, its climate crisis emergency, and it was the way people cared for my grandson. It was the way people cared for my daughter and her husband. There was so much love and tenderness shown to us. And then there was the baby himself. He was a very beautiful baby. And of course, as his bubby, I'm very objective. So I'm going to start by reading you poems from this book. And Murray asked me to say what page it's on. This page on the children's oncology, I think it's floor, on the children's oncology floor, is on page 11, if you're reading along with me. Children's oncology floor. It's so quiet that a baby crying down the hall resembles music. And so too the uncommon beauty of this pigeon perched on a steel girder 8 floors up, her marbled brown and white wings folded down, before she rises over rooftops out to San Francisco Bay. And I want that bird to fly deep into yesterday, where my grandson is simply a baby with a mouthful of plastic keys and a mobile of bright stars and moons singing its way around his head. And I want the pigeon to drop a note down to the prayer ladies posted outside the hospital chapel, the paper printed with his full name, Roger Stephen Hansen, so the faithful can beseech on his behalf, believing however it is they do that God's will be done with a Brovia catheter and feeding tube and caustic chemo excreted into diapers changed every hour as his new body burns from the inside out. And because I can only watch so much, I sit a while outside his room, listening to Chopin float down the hall from the nurse's station, wondering what it is like music that bridges one moment to the next. Then this child in a bright pink dress and hat turns the corner. She and her mother wheel an IV pole between them. "Great job, honey," her mom says, as the girl's skeletal legs step haltingly across the floor. Surrender will be the last thing I have left. But for now, let this child walk out of her grave, showing us how slowly, deliberately it must be done. Thank you. A lot of the kids and babies on the pediatric oncology ward don't make it. And while we were there, I remember a teenager who had bone cancer that lost both her legs before she lost her life. I remember children whose cancers recurred and they came back long after everyone thought they'd been cured. And there was a baby who we watched. He was just a year older than our grandson, and he had brain cancer, and he went through every single treatment until there was nothing left. I wrote this poem for him and his family, and it is based on the 10 last things Jesus said on the cross, which you might wonder why a Jew knows, but I don't know, I've always had kind of a crush on Jesus. There's a kind of torture to losing a baby to cancer after so much treatment, and to me it felt like it had some connection to being crucified. And I don't mean this poem to offend anyone, but I'm telling you, having your grandson at 5 months go through this really causes a lot of religious questioning. While baby Percy begins dying in the room next door, I remember the 7 last things Jesus said as nurses and doctors gown up, enter, leave. When I hear sobbing, I revise the first. Forgive them, they know not what they do, to include God, given that Percy was just beginning to talk, learning that words could bring the world to him. And the second, today you will be with me in paradise. Percy on his way into wind or water, or that Korean dogwood in the park, pale blossoms floating like delicate saucers brimmed with cream. Then the third, behold the mother, behold the son, which must be the one body they share, suffering chemo, radiations, surgeries. 12 times Percy's neuroblastoma recurs. So the fourth, my God, why have you forsaken me? And the fifth too, I thirst, meaning not simply the parch of dying, but the first yearning for a moment more of Percy, his brown curls, his lilting voice. That one afternoon he shrieked with joy in a wheelchair, his father raced down the hall. Now a loud commotion, footsteps, the sixth. It is finished, though not quite, as the family travels past our room, carrying Percy home to die. To surrender to the last words spoken, Jesus said, Father, into your hands I place my spirit. Jesus, if you think there is anything holy about a baby beginning at the end, while I lean against this steel crib, my hand on my grandson's chest just to feel it empty and fill, think again. It just felt so wrong that a baby comes into the world. They're so happy and joyful and wonderful, and then they suffer. And one of the really sad consolation prizes I found in living through this experience was that sometimes you understand something about the world on a new level. One hot summer afternoon, walking outside, I found a starling chick that was dying. And it occurred to me that the ground I was standing on was made up of seemingly endless layers of death. I know, duh. But I don't know, I felt differently then, that this was nature. This was something impersonal. It was inevitable. And it was true even for babies. Midsummer argument with fester and rot. Early morning and hot. A starling chick silent in the road. Gravity too solemn without song. The fledgling fallen from her nest onto asphalt, tossed into the bullseye of the next eagle circling overhead. Look away, I tell myself, walk on. But I've turned back instead to snap 2 giant leaves from the maples, wrap the chick in a mildew-spotted green shroud. Not because of kindness, no. It is, at heart, a bone I must pick with the nature of suffering. With the terror I feel at the idea of God, if that is how the starling mistakes me, as I lift her into my palm, carry her into the grotto's shade to die. I'm sorry if this is all wrong, I whisper to the fledgling, because who am I to mess with the merciless machinery of this world? Maybe this is the nature of suffering too, the sorrow we've been asked to bear without instruction on how to help. Desolate, the echoing thud in my body as the chick is soon to be taken from hers. The world a wound, the closer that you come. Carrion, the song the starling will come to sing, and always a darker lament below. After 3 rounds of chemo, Roger was moved to the bone marrow transplant unit. And this is where the very harshest round of chemo is administered to kill all of the blood cells in the bone marrow to get them ready for the new blood marrow stem cell transplant. And the risk of infection at that point is enormous. He has absolutely no immunity to anything, and so laundry has to be done constantly. No one can enter or leave the unit without quarantining, scrubbing, masking, and worst of all, he was 1 year old and really suffering. Strangely, though, we felt more hope during the transplant, maybe because we knew this was the last round of chemo and the real cure for this disease was beginning. You can see this hope peeking through in this poem. Also, I was staying at my friend's house in Marin, who's also a poet, and because we were going every day to get laundry to wash and bringing food, and we had been quarantining like mad. And I was reading the Dream Songs at the time. I can't believe I'd never read it before then. But you'll hear the word jubilant borrowed from Ashbery, which I'm sure you all know has sort of a meaning of joy. Easier said than done. Easier said than done to stay inside it here, where the sky balances over the bridge, joining this borrowed cottage to the cancer ward. Or driving across the bay to launder blankets stained with misery, his plush jubilat gone dark as radio silence. My mind, like a goldfish, swimming laps inside a too small bowl. My thoughts circling liver failure and mucositis and heart damage until I've lapsed into a loosening of grief, yellow as a finch flinging herself into the privet, and sings, even now in my nightgown, in the shadow of my grandson's suffering, I stand on the cold slate of the balcony, staring up at evening visible through 2 apple trees, as elation's sudden helium lifts me between soil and stars. Brief, but for the moment's span, I can believe one day love will find him nearly grown. In a garden like this, the gate unlatched, helpless to stop, he's walking out under jasmine into the merciless perfume of this world. So there was no straight line of recovery to this story. Before and after, Roger nearly died. And those moments, those weeks where we didn't know if he'd live or not, just fueled our terror. We all came out of this with a lot of PTSD because it just was so unpredictable. You never knew. And one of the worst times was after the transplant, when there were lab results that suggested the transplant didn't work, which would mean that he had a more deadly less responsive mutation with a lot less chance of a recovery. And I was so beside myself during this time waiting for the lab results that I wrote this poem in form, which we all know can help when you're just at your wit's end. So this is called After Learning the Transplant May Have Failed. It's a sonnet. How hurried the light after rain, the snow geese wheeling across blue miles of wetlands, the ponds sun-steeped gold in late afternoon. If to pray is to ask and know there is no one and nothing to answer, then I will ask only to lie down in wet grass, wingless under this flyway, this vast sky given to passage. I will ask, please embed him in the crossing over. Please give my grandson time in the only once of it. If to pray is to plead, I will beg the dusk that worries these wild flocks as they rise and fall and cannot settle, will beg for him to stay long among us. Please, it's late. Hurry now. In the 2 years he was mostly in and sometimes out of the hospital, Roger fought his way so hard back to us. This kid, actually, I felt at the moment he was born, and he wanted to be here. In fact, he still to this day hates sleeping. Even during his sickest periods, he never wanted to sleep. He never would sleep. It was just all like, come on, go to sleep. But he survived all this chemo. He had a very, very frightening brain bleed early on. He developed a septic infection in his blood. He had a serious complication from his bone marrow transplant. But he didn't reject his transplant. And the first sign he might be in remission came when he started to develop his own markers of immunity. And for the first time since he was 5 months old, he was 2, he was allowed to play outside, to touch the world. So this is a poem about that. My grandson's first week back in the world. Take the sky, swallowed down by a warbler before it departs as song, or darkness steeping those first 14 months on the cancer floor in a white crib, before the canopies of Chinese pistache leak red across the horizon, the lemon trees glowing in globes of juice. Today we return to the garden with its forbidden grass and soil, its bacteria and fungus that for too long would have killed him. But now remade, maybe even cured, he can be buckled into the swings basket where he flies, breathless, out and back over the strange crossings he's been asked to make. Then we walk to the sandbox under winter's lean scythe of afternoon. Unstoppable his want. Look at how he starts, coating his hands, his lips with dirt, his body finally anointed with the lush possibilities of earth. He just kept getting better and better. And his parents actually decided at some point they were going to actually risk going away for a night, and they let us babysit him. And so I wrote this poem about that. Just a few words here in Latin, which I know some of you know. Ossine is a songbird from a bird back in the olden days whose cry, rather than its flight, is taken to be a sign, an omen. And it belongs to the order Passeri, which is the largest order of birds. Passerine, birds that perch, including all songbirds. You won't be tested on this. When he says he's a bird, he can go so high. Even now that he's been stolen back, his grandfather and I are quiet before what passes unspoken from the almost not of this child's first year. That next world seemed too close and gleaming as I read to him about a finch perched in a pine. Good night, the forest says to him, though I'm still listening to the absence of ICU alarms and monitors in his not yet taken tomorrow, where he ran today scaring up ravens, starlings, forcing them like buds to open their wings into the spirit world that we've named sky. Listen, all songbirds are Aussies from the order Passeri, and they perch a lifetime here. Listen, finch, sparrow, pine siskin. I'm not asking for the never ending. I just want to call him Little Passerine, as if I believe it, that he has permission to stay for the whole story. I don't think I can do a reading these days without reading a political poem. It seems a little like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know why, but it feels like I have to say something. Where I live in the Central Valley, we had the coldest winter we've had in so long. And I know there were lots of days when you guys had beautiful sunshine, because I looked. And we were so cold. It was unbelievable. The two-leaf fog just came and sat there. And it would never get above 40 for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then, of course, I started, like everyone else, being completely focused on Minneapolis and all the brutal cold they were having, as well as the ice. But we had that week of warm weather. And in the valley, this happens. You have one little touch of warm weather, and boom, spring just pops out like nobody's business. So this is a poem called After a Long Winter in the New Regime. After a long winter in the new regime, spring takes matter into its own hands, slashes sutures on the budding oaks to free the next generation of leaves. Terrible things repeat, my father told me when I was 13. God forgive me, I laughed. Thought, poor old man, doesn't he know not here, never again? Meanwhile, strange halos of gnats sip at the wounds of busted open sepals and stalks. A daffodil's yellow flag unzips its green sheath, waves in the post-historic sky. After months of ice, Congress voting to amputate every possible future, sunlight nudges the pear trees into flower. Bridal, I think, that delicate white ephemera bubbling up before it fizzes out, petals thrown down like rice. And why not dream I might one day marry spring with its meaty bankroll of seed and rain? Or at least pledge allegiance to the violent heat of its republic torn apart to make room for something new. Then enter it, right hand over my heart. So I'm going to end with a love poem because Joe's friend, Marvin Bell, and I don't know if I could call him a friend, but he was certainly someone who I felt a great deal of admiration for. And he was so kind to me when I knew him. And he said that every good poem is a love poem. And this one I know is a love poem because I wrote it for my Valentine, who always hides in the back. He hates it when I do this, but that's okay. So I guess this is also for Marvin. When forever is no longer on the calendar, we get busy. Because winter's dark lets up beginning tomorrow, it's no longer all bad news. A new calf is born to the resident orcas. Our neighbors rewild their lawn with wild rye. Even in the remote mountains of Brazil, an ornithologist discovers the blue, slaty-masked tinamou with its haunting song that climbs a scale slowly. The little bird is friendly with humans, which would be bad news for its future. Best to stay hidden, wait quietly in the disappearing ink of night. Best to be a wild animal in perfectly camouflaged furs. Like the buck last night when we were driving home, how it looked up from the terrifying vast on the verge of leaping, and for a moment I could see the slow detonation of our plot line, our blind reaching out for light, half scared to death, half awed at the beauty of what remains. That's the good and bad news for now. How some desire so ravenous it could devour everything. Some as simple as this afternoon when I look into your eyes and ask, want to? And you stop whatever essential matter you're attending to, ordering new parts for the shower or trimming styrofoam to help your bees over winter. Then, for the millionth time, you exclaim, really? Thrilled as a man given a brand new Lamborghini. And we undress, planning as we always do to take it slow. But of course, on the winter solstice, when it's already night by 4 in the afternoon, stars ripening just outside our bedroom, we gallop heedlessly as colts let out to pasture until my vocals arrive like a Tinamu libretta, and boom, it's over. Our well-ridden animal bodies sweating in the sweet grass of joy. Thank you.
Julia B. Levine. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Beautiful. Next up, Joseph Millar. His recent poetry collection is Shine. David St. John says, the difficult grace of dailiness and the defiant resilience of the spirit have always been at the heart of Millar's poetry. Book by book, line by carefully carved line, Millar has been writing the finest poetry about work and material presence in our world since those of his exemplar, Philip Levine. His previous books include Overtime, finalist for the Oregon Book Award, Fortune, Blue Rust, Kingdom, and Dark Harvest, new and selected poems. His poetry has appeared in Ploughshares, Tri-Quarterly, the Southern Review, American Poetry Review, and elsewhere. And he's received fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts. It will be back someday. And Guggenheim Foundation, as well as a Pushcart Prize. Please welcome Joseph Millar.
That's good, thank you. Well, thank you for coming. It's a great pleasure to read with Julia and to see you all. And, you know, poetry. There we go. Thanks a lot. I'm just going to take the top off. Jules, you were handling this pretty good.
You want me to do it?
So I'm gonna read a couple poems from Shine, which has been out for a little while, but I'm gonna read a lot of new ones, which I'm sort of trying out. Some of these little ones, I've been getting these little ones, this is one of them. It's called Veil, like veil, bridal veil, or veil. This morning she was tapping the dark lotus seeds with a hammer, trying to crack them just enough to gradually open their blossoms into the still water. And yesterday it was a wisp of down drifting across the laundromat floor, loose hairs fallen in front of the dryer. To see the world beyond this one, held in its glistening fronds and veins, look through the side of your eye. This is a poem about. It's called "Blessed with Work." Blessed with work. This is from Shine. It went okay trimming the bushes, growing over the back porch and stairs of the house where my brother's widow resides. The mimosa and ivy he left behind, thin rain spattering the windows nearby. It can feel hopeless being somebody's father, but it's all right being somebody's brother. For brothers are born and they rise up in time, and sometimes they never learn to sing. Though on a day like this in the early spring, we were blessed with work, which we loved together, like roots in the backyard dirt. They keep pushing deeper and farther below, where the sun doesn't reach and the light doesn't show. But the roots never mind. They never left Eden. They think of work as a second heaven. Their eye is single. They think without words. They don't need a gun and they don't need a sword. I'll read another one. Shine. This one's called Swan Song, and it was after my wife fell and broke her shoulder. Swan Song. You are like a swan with a broken wing, Ophelia gliding through mansions of water, smelling the hesitant perfumes of night, fig and skunk cabbage, railroad flowers, shells washed up in the campfire light. We think of her down there under the current, who my friend says is a Christ figure, weighed down by betrayal and grief, and her long clothes and her chevelure, whose mother we never meet, and listening to jazz in Sam's Park Place barbershop, where I've paid for the first shave of my life, lying back at age 78, coconut oil and my face in a hot towel, only my nose sticking out like a gangster boss in a film noir, the low-down blues stalking around, Jimmy Smith and Stanley Turrentine. Alas, poor Cannonball, I knew him well, who winked at me climbing onto the stage in Baltimore's famous ballroom, winter of 1969. Another Lord gone in the dark soil of history, or maybe it's really an ocean. Another Lord surging into the tide on the long waves of resurrection. There's some jazz bands out there. This one, there's a poets in here. I call this waiting on the poem. Sometimes when I'm writing, I like to sit up straight in the quiet, imagining a large rhododendron plant, like the ones that grow up in Oregon, pushing its blue flowers out over our backyard thistles and dandelions, where the crows will gather for decades to come to violate the stillness with their sudden voices, waiting to be fed peanuts in the shell at the hand of my wife next to the broken stairs. And sometimes I think of the Arab forms and the troubadours of Provence, Arnaud Daniel and Bernard de Ventadour composing for the unattainable muse, some distant sideways lady of the castle, Eleanor of Aquitaine, Marguerite de Touraine, Sestina and Obad in their rhythms and stress, vernacular music passed down the line. It's a long time till it gets here, to you and me, little voice. This poem was written in a kind of a dark space, as you'll gather. It's called Job. I've just come from walking to and fro in the earth, Satan tells God, before they make the wager, standing for centuries as metaphor for man's existence, trapped in fortune, like an insect under a microscope, his disastrous ecology, his ravaged immune system, even his broken, veined, wine-flushed face, looking back from the rearview mirror, parked alone by the river. He should have been born with fins, he thinks, as the swans arch and preen and attack one another, though everyone says they mate for life, and the afternoon wind raises welts of sunlight over the torqued and rippling surface and the beautiful, ravenous fish. This one's called First Man. The doc told me this morning my heart's okay, though the prostate antigen's kind of high. It's getting up there, and so am I. And I wander outside into the air, the clothesline and the blessed marine layer, where the stems of the Bolivian sunflower lean and sway in the wind. For the backyard's like a bend in the river. It smells a little like pine, with the dog next door locked out back, whimpering to be let in. Once a year, I go see the doc. So far, so good on the lungs and liver, not to mention these ghostly hairs growing out of my ears, and the way it seems natural sometimes to suddenly start shedding tears. But maybe it's more like a state of mind to walk in the Garden of Eden, where Adam was truly a transcendent man because part of him was a woman. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So I got some of these other new ones. Late fall. The day dawns shrouded and overcast, broken by world disasters, following one after the other. Though the storm has ended the drought, and the streets shine black, and the buckeye leaves, heavy with rain, rattle the window. The gray rabbit sleeps with its paws folded under the clean, dry breast fur, under its counsel of vigilant peace. I take out my pen in the silence. I pass through the gates of nothing to say. November, more sky than grass, more sea than land, more night than day. I'm on too long up here. You know, I mean, that was such an amazing reading, Jules. Just an amazing reading. God damn. So great. Full Moon Sunday. If you make a mistake, you can do it again. You can let it be swept away and abandoned. You can take some time for yourself, with nothing expected and nothing demanded, and nothing looking back from the fugitive twilight or the feverish rooms full of moonlight and trying to figure out what they mean. Almost nothing at times like this, of the angel inside your mind, standing guard through the mist and holding you back from your joy, original joy, serpent joy, shedding its aging, delicate skin. Let's see. So then, maybe three or something. Okay, this one is, now I got these things. You know, I put them all one after the other, and now they're like, okay, that's good. And then here goes one called, here goes one called The Poem. It was based on this craft talk I heard where, remember Martin Schiffer?
Yeah.
She gives this good talk about the poem and that it's waiting for us. The poem we're on to write, it's been waiting for us. Isn't that great?
That's crazy.
What if it's the way she says, and the poem was already here before you came along? And it's black boots and silver cuffs, still part dream on the edge of your vision, half blacked out the way your wife speaks at the onset of a migraine, walking on eggshells. What if it looks back at you from the door, as if about to forget you, as if about to rub up against you and then blur away, like the sound of a distant train or the wind outside? Did you leave in its care something hidden and true, some monstrous hope or betrayal, something to bind you together there in the longing for home? Yeah. Okay. Faith and time. Maybe you'll never have enough words for watching the grass all summer long slowly dry out and turn to gold, like the pale streak on your wrist where the watch clamps down, tick-tock, over the delicate veins, its shadow now flown that once gave asylum to friends and brothers, and now closes down on your empty hands, closes down on the land. So many times you haven't known what was being taught until it was over, trying to study the spirit, but forgetting the moment, slipping away like some kind of part-time lover. Sometimes you're the one who's afraid to live without touching the earth, its water and dust, its rocks and muds, its rocks and mud, and the ones you're not ready to leave behind, muscles and nerves, hair and blood, their lungs full of air, and their eyes full of tears. And I'll close with this one. This one's called Medium. Medium. Out back, they're pulling a ribbon of cable high up into the air, tossing the pull wire over the houses so the TV signal can travel across, bearing its slick, bright, violent images, tombstones and diamonds, suitcases, cash, skeletons buried, ribbons of trash, and the gray sea rolling in from afar, exploding onto the rocks. Who is it we are meant to be? Watchers in autumn's hum, looking for ordinary things, sometimes moving or sometimes still. Gold carp like spoons of light in the water the whole world was once made of. Thank you.